Welcome to this training of Elements of Accessibility in Online Courses. I'd like to start this training from a blurb from the 2016 Grammys.
Okay, so, you all can't read this, huh? You can't read it, you can't read Braille. I just want to say, before saying the winner, that we need to make every single thing accessible to every single person with a disability. And the winner is! And you know what? I told my daughter Aisha this song was a great song when I first heard it, and it has won tonight, Thinking Out Loud!
In this training, we will talk about what needs to be done to your courses and online instructional material to help your course be accessible and usable to both students with and without disabilities. We will briefly be covering federal regulations, accessible documents, videos and audio, and other basics and universal design which will increase usability for all students. There are federal regulations that are required for all online course material in higher education. The regulations we refer to are the U.S. Rehabilitation Act, the Americans with Disability Act of 1990, OCR rulings in recent lawsuits, and WCAG 2.0 AA standards. Although federal regulations make accessibility important, it's also necessary to remember the usability of all our learners. All the techniques in this presentation increase its usability. There are multiple ways to make your online content accessible and usable. We will be covering the major components or elements of accessibility for online instructional material. The first area we're going to talk about is our documents. Oftentimes, instructors use multiple different types of documents to present material in online courses. Microsoft Word and PowerPoint are two of the major programs instructors use. The most important thing to do in a Word document is to be sure you use the style elements. You can find these style elements in the top of the toolbar on the left. Be sure to include headings, the title, list paragraph, quotes, and various types of emphasis. When an average-sighted person receives a document, it's typical for them to skim the document to find what they're looking for. For example, if you handed your students the syllabus, they would skip to the part of the syllabus to find out what the grading policy is or what assignments are due that semester. For a person using a screen reader, it is impossible to do unless the creator of the document has created headings. Headings allow for the screen reader to go from section to section without reading all the content in between. Another important thing to consider when writing a document is to not use the bold, underline, italicized to show emphasis. An example of this would be in your syllabus when you're talking about deadlines. You might want to bold and underline and say, "No late work accepted." Unless you show the emphasis using the styles as a screen reader, they will not be able to determine whether the text is underlined, bold, or italicized, eliminating the emphasis you have assigned to that text. If you do not care for the font or the preset styles, you can modify them. Select the style you desire, right-click, select Modify. In the next box, choose the font, size, and positioning. The next most important step in a Word document is making sure you're saving your document to an accessible format. It is general practice for instructors to save files as a PDF before posting an online course. The most accessible format to save a Word document is an HTML. Not only does this allow screen readers to read it easily, but students using a mobile device will be able to read the document because it will be formatted to the size of the screen of the mobile device. Both Mac users and PC users can save their documents to HTML. When you use the Mac, select the file format and choose HTML. PC users have one additional step to ensure accessibility. Under the options, be sure to check the box next to Document Structure Tags for Accessibility. Then select Save as Type and select Web Page. To save as a PDF for both the PC and Mac, just go to your Save As type or file format and select PDF. Please remember, if a person is using a mobile device, the page will not be formatted to the screen on their device. PowerPoints are similar to Word documents in that they need to use styles. In PowerPoints, these are designated as standard layouts. The standard layouts allow for the screen reader to know what reading order and the text is. Reading order is when a screen reader comes to a PowerPoint slide and it reads the title and then the text underneath it. Try to refrain from using your own text boxes, as this will disturb the reading order. Look at the view of the outline section of your PowerPoint. Allows you to determine if the reading order is correct. Another great use that increases usability for learners is to make the outline available with HTML. You can do this by copying and pasting the outline into a Word document, assigning headings, and saving as HTML. This will probably take you about 10 minutes to complete, but the end result ensures accessibility and usability. There is a downside. The user will need to access the PowerPoint for the images. Your PowerPoint must also be saved in an accessible format. However, if you choose to just upload your PowerPoint, screen readers will be easily to access the information. If you're putting your PowerPoint online, we highly suggest you save your PowerPoint as a PDF. Again, both Mac users and PC users find the step just a little bit different from each other. If you're a Mac user, you will have to export as PDF. If you are using a PC, you may save the document as a PDF. There is one small step you must do in the PC that you do not have to do in the Mac, and that would be to make sure you go into your options and check the box next to document structure tags for accessibility. The exact verbiage of that option might slightly change for different versions of PowerPoints. There are a few other items you must remember in documents to make them accessible. Be sure to create an alternative text. An alternative text, or alt text, is a description of any image in a document. Users with visual impairments obviously cannot see an image, so the alternative text allows the screen reader to describe the image. It's important to identify what exactly is meant by an image. Image refers to anything that is inserted to your file that is not a text element. This includes pictures, photos, word art, word clouds, graphs, some tables, and charts. In order to add your alt text to your image, all you have to do is select the image. Then, right-click, select Format Picture, select the Layout and Property icon. It is the third icon from the left. Write your title, and then describe your picture. The same steps are used for PowerPoint and Word. Be sure you're writing your description that your description consists of 140 characters or less. This is as long as a tweet on Twitter. Also, describe the picture of its importance in the document and not necessarily what the picture is doing. For example, an image of a flower would have a different description for a second grader versus a graduate student studying biology. Don't forget the graphic text must also be an accessible image. Be sure to write your alternative text for all images. If you're using tables in your document, there are a few tips to make them accessible. First thing you need to know ahead of time is how many rows and columns you need. Do not use the Draw Table option, as this does not allow for correct formatting for screen readers. After you have your table inserted, make sure that you identify the header row. Also check to restrict the page width. The steps to create a header row are: select the top of the row of the table, right-click, choose Table Properties, select Row tab, check the box Repeat as Header Row at the top of the page. Uncheck Allow Row to break across pages. By adding the header row and restricting your page width, you will allow a screen reader to be able to read the table correctly. A screen reader reads the table by reading how many rows and how many columns. Then it will read the headings in the columns repeated for each row of content. It is also good practice to assign alternative text to the tables. For PC users, the instructions are similar for images. If your description is over 140 characters, a long description will be required. We'll discuss long descriptions in the next few slides. There are a few things you should not do to make your tables accessible. As we already mentioned, do not use the Draw Table tool. Do not create a page layout with your tables. It's tempting to organize your page using tables, but typically it just confuses the screen readers and it makes it difficult for someone with visual impairments to access information on your page. A few other things to be sure not to do for accessible tables includes merging cells, split cells, or using blank rows and columns. I already mentioned about charts and graphs, but I think it's important to revisit the subject to emphasize the importance of charts and graphs are essentially images. They require an alternative text. Most require a long description because there's too much information in a chart or graph to be told in 140 characters or less. So what is a long description? A long description is basically a description that is longer than 140 characters. There are two ways to add a long description for your alternative text. The first thing to do in the description box, you're going to type long description and then add a hyperlink that either goes to another document in your course or a hyperlink to another web page. If you're using Blackboard, I suggest that you create a page for your long descriptions and then add the hyperlink to that page in the alternative text box. By using a Blackboard page for your long descriptions, your information will be in HTML. What do you write in a long description? The long description should include anything that is written in your chart, in your graph or chart. You don't necessarily want to interpret that information, but you do need to include any information that a sighted user could obtain from that graph. Try to remember that by making content accessible, all the information that a sighted user can obtain by looking at the document is available to a person with a visual disability. I have found that many publishing companies will provide PowerPoints to instructors to use. Some of these PowerPoints include images of tables, charts, and graphs that are in the related textbook. Often these publisher-created PowerPoints are not an accessible format because they use the tables and charts that do not have long descriptions. There are a few things you can do to make these PowerPoints accessible. The first thing I would do is contact your publisher's representative and ask if the publishing company does indeed have an accessible format. If they do not, you can usually find accessible formats of the images in the ebook edition. Feel free to ask your textbook representatives if you as an instructor can have access to the ebook so that you can provide this information to your students. If the content is not in the ebook, you will have to write your long descriptions yourself. One of the obvious accommodations for online courses are transcripts or closed captions for videos and audio. If you only have audio or your video is just a picture of you talking, you do not have to have synchronized captions. You can upload a transcript of your audio and that will be sufficient. If you have a video, you will need to include synchronized captions. You may have heard captions being called many things: subtitles, open captions, closed captions, and synchronized captions. Subtitles are typically used when the audio is one language and the captions are another. For example, an English class that is needing a Spanish translation would use subtitles. Open captions are burned on the video and cannot be turned off. Closed captions can be turned off and on. And then finally, synchronized captions mean that captions are synchronized with the timing in the video. The most important thing to remember about these different types of captions is that videos require synchronized captions. I always encourage instructors to also include a transcript along with their captions when they have a video. Students can use this information for studying, reviewing the material, or highlighting important text as they listen along. Also, students who read fast or don't really care to watch a video, or maybe they're in a location where they can't listen to the video, can read the transcript in lieu of watching the video. There are different file types for captions. At Texas Tech Worldwide eLearning, we use an SRT file. When our lab captions the video, we send the SRT file to the instructor. The instructor can then open the file in a notepad and save it as a document. Sometimes we also have the option to provide the instructor with a document of the transcript. Either way, providing this transcript to the students is most beneficial. There are some websites that are very helpful with self-captioning. Amara.org will help you caption your files, and they will also help you merge a caption file with a YouTube video that you do not own. If you do not own a YouTube video, you do not have copyright permission to add the captions unless the author of that YouTube video has given you permission. You could create your own captions and save it as an SRT file. Then go to Amara and merge the video file with the SRT file. Amara does not infringe on copyright because it plays the YouTube video from the original source and then plays a clear, transparent video with the captions over the original YouTube video. In the event the user of the YouTube video no longer wants it online, Amara will no longer be able to play that video. By using Amara to show captions over your video, you are not changing the video in any way and still providing closed caption services. The most widely used software is probably YouTube. You can use YouTube for a variety of ways with your own videos. First thing you will do is upload your video. Then you will go to Video Manager, where you can ask the YouTube to either use voice recognition software, invite others to create captions for your videos, or write them yourselves. Typically, the captions with YouTube captioning is not very reliable, and you will have to spend some time correcting the captions. One nice thing about YouTube is that if you have a transcript of your video, you can upload that to YouTube and it will automatically set the timestamps. Again, the timing will need to be reviewed as YouTube is seldom 100% accurate. Color is very important when it comes to accessibility and online content. Did you know that 5% of the male population is colorblind? Be sure that you do not use color for emphasis or convey meaning, or a portion of the population may not be able to interpret what you're intending to say. In this slide, there is an example of an instructor who is putting his students in groups. For example, it reads, students in red are in group 1, students in blue are in group 2. If you are colorblind, you may not know the difference of which one is red and which one is blue. We can simply change the content. If you look at the second example, you'll see the students in red with an asterisk are in group 1, and students with blue with the number sign are in group 2. Making this change allows for the color to be used for emphasis, but it does not alienate people who cannot determine which color is which. Another issue to be concerned about with color is to have sufficient color contrast. Again, this helps people who are colorblind or with low vision. WebAIM has a color contrast checker if you are unsure about the contrasting colors. A simple search for color contrast on the internet will help you decide what is defined as good high contrasting colors and what is poor low contrasting colors. Fonts are also a consideration for accessibility and documents. Be sure to remember that if you use a graphic text, you have to create an alternative text. Also, use the basic, simple, easy-to-read fonts. Some people advocate for sans serif fonts. Sans serif fonts mean that they are fonts without a curve at the end of the letters. You also want to stay away from any scripted text. Small fonts or use several different fonts. Consistency is always an important aspect for accessibility, and this includes consistency with the types of fonts you use. It's a good time to remind you about using styles for emphasis in your documents. If you want to include an emphasis in a document, do it in the Styles section and stay away from the bold, italicized, or underlined buttons. One other thing, do not use all capital letters. It usually means someone is yelling and no one likes an instructor who yells. Do you know how to navigate your screen with a keyboard? People with physical disabilities sometimes cannot use a mouse, and people with visual disabilities cannot see the screen to know where the mouse is moving. It's important that your website can be navigated with a keyboard. If you're using a Blackboard or creating styles in Word and page layouts in PowerPoint, you probably will not have to worry about this. An easy way to check for websites and documents navigation is to use the tab and arrow keys to tab through your document. Another important of navigation is to ensure the tabs are consistent from page to page. Again, Blackboard provides this for you. I would like to mention flashing and blinking content. You should really stay away from any flashing or blinking since it causes seizures and migraines in some users. For people who don't suffer from seizures and migraines, flashing and blinking content can also be distracting from the information you're trying to convey. Let's take a minute and talk about descriptive links. We often want to share information on the internet with our students or direct them to a different page. Be sure you do not use the URL or click here. You will want to include a descriptive link. A descriptive link is essentially the name of the websites that you're going to. When a screen reader comes to a URL in a document, it'll read out the URL character by character. However, when a screen reader comes to a descriptive link, it reads the title of the website. The user will know exactly where the link is going. The last basic thing about accessibility that I want to share with you today is an exit disclaimer. In the situation when you are referring your students to another website that may or may not be accessible, it's important that you include an exit disclaimer stating that if they need help with accessibility, where they can go for assistance. This is an example of an exit disclaimer that an instructor may use at Texas Tech University. Basically, it says that we have no control over editing this website, and if they need help, they can receive services at Student Disability Services. It's important to know that if you own, manage, or control a website or online content, you are responsible for the accessibility. Federal regulations are obviously the first element we consider when creating online content, but how you design an online course and the methods of instruction within that course are also extremely important for usability for the learner. In this section, we'll discuss areas to address for universal design of learning. Although we already mentioned a few of these items, it's important to talk about these subjects again. Minimal clicks are important for multiple reasons. A general rule that instructional designers like to follow is less than 3 clicks to find content. In a typical class, you have to click on the course, click on the module, and then click on the content. If within that content a student has to click multiple more times, this becomes burdensome if the internet speed is slow and time-consuming. For people with disabilities who cannot use a mouse, this task becomes even more problemsome, definitely reducing the usability of a website. Everyone likes to look at pictures, but try avoiding pictures and having images for mere decoration. First, remember each image needs to have an alternative text which discusses the importance of the course. If the image is just decoration and you must keep it, you can include an open quote, close quote as the alt text and the screen reader will not read it. Another decorative item that people like to use is decorative backgrounds and flashing backgrounds. As prior stated, flashing and blinking content can have serious adverse effects, and decorative backgrounds can limit what some people see due to color blindness and visual impairments. Already discussed in previous slides is how to make tables and graphs accessible. You can make them more usable by including the significance in their text accompanying your table. Providing clear communication is extremely important. Included in that is how a learner will contact you for various reasons. You should clarify in your syllabus and in your welcoming statement how communication will happen within your course. Basic course announcements can happen in the announcements section of your online course. You can also set the preferences to email the students along with posting the announcements on the announcement page of your course. Keeping the announcements on the announcement page will give the students an opportunity to review all the announcements in one spot. What are the students to do if they have a question about the content or assignments within the module? I have seen this matter handled in 2 ways. Some instructors choose to create a discussion board for each individual module, allowing other students to reply and view the question. Creating a discussion forum for questions about each module keeps the questions sorted by module. You may choose to have a discussion board for all course-related questions. Either way, the student will know that they need to ask questions about the coursework in that area. At the end of the semester, instructors can look at the questions that were asked and possibly change the content of the course to answer those questions. The third area of communication that is very important is the area of personal problems students may have. There are times when students need to be gone for a time or have medical issues or family issues that they need to address with the instructor. These are situations that the students may not want to share on a public discussion board, so the instructor needs to decide if they would rather have students email the instructor directly or set up an online course messaging system. Another way to make the course more usable and provide a universal design of learning in your online courses is to make sure that the learning materials are presented in more than one format. You can present materials through a variety of ways. You can create presentations, assign wikis, link to blogs, show videos, link to podcasts and audios and others. Providing multiple ways that students can access information allow for each individual learning preference and style. Along with learning the content to different areas to cater to each individual learning preference style, you may want to consider providing a variety of different assignments to increase motivation. When I taught a Foundations of Education course online, I would assign reading material from the textbook. I wanted students to prove to me that they read the material I assigned. Students could do a variety of assignments for their proof. They could write a short essay about the relevance of the material, complete a chapter outline, take an online publisher-created test, define all the definitions and answer all the essay questions, or create a PowerPoint presentation. I had one student who was very talented in music, and she requested to write a song or a parody of a popular rhythm for some of the content we covered. No matter which method they choose, I was able to see that they understood the content. You may think this is a grading nightmare, but I found the assignments much more interesting and the students were more excited about the content. It was much more enjoyable to grade. In the grade book, I designated one column for each unit, and they presented their material to me. I inserted each grade. You do not have to provide as many options for students, but altering the type of assignment increases motivation. Be creative and you and your students will reap the rewards. There are a few more suggestions to help you start implementing universal design of learning. Offering supplemental material will be beneficial for those students who just can't get it the first time, or if a student wants more information about a certain topic. I suggest in every module or unit you include a folder with additional material. I am often asked if this material needs to be accessible, even though it is not graded or the content is not tested. The answer is yes. Any material included in your course must be accessible. Do you use Collaborate or a chat room for any in-class conversations? If so, it is a good idea to be sure they are at a moderate pace. I would also copy and paste the content into a Word document, save as HTML, and upload it to your course for future reference. I already mentioned the benefits of including a transcript even if you have a captioned video. But visual descriptions are important also. Visual descriptions are voiceover description about what is happening in the video. This video description is for people with visual disabilities. It allows them to understand what is happening in the video. So those are the major elements of accessibility that you need to include in your online courses. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about creating material that is both accessible and usable.